Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Jessie. This is very different than what's usually on this channel, but I wanted to basically just do like a get ready, something you need to know about me, okay? I love metal and I also love makeup. I fucking love makeup. Even though I get some flack for it, which is like a whole thing. But we won't get into it, it's fine. But basically, I really love makeup and I actually really wanted to be a beautuber, as Jenna Marbles used to say, really, really badly. I used to want to be a beauty YouTuber extremely badly, and I still do. I love makeup. I love it. I fucking love it, dude. It's a really great way for me to express myself. So figured, why not do kind of a get ready with me in the sense of like, talking about my metal journey and like how I personally got into metal, because I think it kind of is, it's different for everyone, you know? It's a very personal journey and I love hearing about how people get into metal because it's so diverse and so different. And yeah, so I figured why not do my makeup and talk. I'm not very good at that. I'm not good at talking, okay? We're gonna get fucking right into it. That introduction was so long. Oh my God. I've already primed my skin and put on my eyebrows because I need to do that, because otherwise you would not watch this video because I would look like crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about basically my metal journey and some of the products that I'm using along the way, because I'm sure people are interested in that. I don't know how to do this, guys. Let's hop right into it. Let's fucking zoom in, shall we? We are gonna be playing with these two palettes because I just recently got them. I'm very sad about this one. This is the Fall Magic palette by Unearthly Cosmetics. It came broken. I don't know if you can tell, but these two, very broken. Had to get alcohol and kind of smoosh them back together. The eye primer that I like to use is the Anastasia Beverly Hills. I used to use Louise, but I am out of it. So we're settling for Anastasia Beverly Hills. Also, if you see me looking off to the side, it's because my viewfinder, I'm looking at my viewfinder because listen, I can't concentrate and look at that. Like if I see me, I will be looking at me, myself. So I'm just gonna take my little palette brush from Anastasia Beverly Hills and I'm just gonna prime my eyelids. My metal journeys. I'm gonna start with childhood. I grew up in a household with someone who grew up in the 70s and someone who grew up in the 80s. My dad was into a lot of classic rock. So I grew up on, you know, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Janis Joplin, Jimi Hendrix, The Doors. But I also grew up on Fleetwood Mac, ABBA, Toni Braxton, Whitney Houston. My dad was like a hippie from the 70s and my mom was a party girl from the 80s. So different vibe, two different vibes. But I grew up like with the knowledge of classic rock, but not in the sense of like, I didn't really listen to Black Sabbath or anything like metal. It was definitely mostly classic rock. For sure, mostly classic rock, which has more of a country vibe if you really think about it. Still not a huge fan of country though. So I'm gonna go for like these colors. And we're gonna put that in the crease with this fluffy brush, which is a ColourPop E19. Okay, that was way more pigmented than I had anticipated. But once I hit elementary school, I fell in love with a lot of mainstream pop. I really loved the Spice Girls. I really loved NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, like, you know, all the mainstream stuff. I always wanted to be a performer. I always wanted to be a singer. And I still really admire pop artists. I love Ariana Grande. I love Christina Aguilera still. I still love Beyonce and pop artists because vocally they are so talented. Their abilities are ridiculous and I totally respect that. So I grew up on that, and then again into elementary school I started listening to like the mainstream stuff. Partially because my mom literally had the radio on 24/7, except for when we went to sleep. But like throughout the day, it was on. So I listened to all the mainstream stuff. And then sometimes like my dad and we would have like these listening parties and just listen to like his stuff, which would be like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin. I was exposed to both, but I would say like definitely like the mainstream pop stuff was something that I listened to a little bit more than what my dad liked. And then I listened to that all throughout elementary school because so I'm born in 1992. Evanescence didn't come out until 2004, which changed everything. It changed the course of my life forever. Amy Lee is still my queen, but I remember seeing her and like seeing how she dressed and how she did everything, like her voice, the lyrics, the sound, the outfits, the makeup, her hair. I just loved everything about it. It was so different than everything else that I had been exposed to. So I just gravitated towards that immediately. And I started listening to Evanescence and Korn and Rammstein and Slipknot. I never really got into Flyleaf though. So I really got into nu metal. Nu metal was like my thing. I fucking loved nu metal. Evanescence in general opened my eyes to like the ability of seeing women in that light, in that more dark, moody light. I'm now going into Snug, which is a deep purple, and just reinforcing my crease and deepening it up a little bit. And then once I hit high school, I started like, you know, meeting new people and finding new friends. You know, I was able to kind of like spread my wings a little more and be who I wanted to be. Like I had friends in like the metalhead group who listened to Avenged Sevenfold and Lamb of God and stuff like that, but I didn't really get into Avenged Sevenfold until later, and they really helped catapult me into finding more heavy bands. I really hated sounding the seventh trumpet, and I still do. But I started listening to them when Afterlife, their self-titled came out, and then I went back and listened to Backcountry. It is like not okay how easy these are to blend, though I will say like they're kind of, it's almost like it blends away, whatever. But I didn't actually really like Avenged Sevenfold's older album. It's like Unholy Confessions and Sounding the Seventh Trumpet, because I was not a fan of screaming for a really long time. Slipknot was like my exception. I was that person. I was that person, guys. That was like, it takes no talent, it's just noise. So yeah, I was definitely that person that like didn't think that screaming took any talent and that it was a waste of time and that I didn't understand why people liked it. And I remember asking actually a friend, Sam, as to why he liked it so much, and he was like, I just love the aggression of it. I love the expression that can be portrayed through it. And I started thinking about it in a different way. It wasn't until I started listening to Nightwish, which was around the same time as Avenged Sevenfold, that started exposing me to Beauty and the Beast style vocals. I started listening to Epica, I started listening to Kamelot, which doesn't have screaming in it, but like I was listening to a lot of symphonic metal, so like Within Temptation, and I didn't really like get into Eluvedi? I don't know how to say it. Deadlock. Was into them for a hot minute, and I just started realizing like, okay, I like screams like sprinkled in like tastefully when it makes sense. But then, oh my God, here is where it really took off for me. I was in, I think 12th grade, like right at the end of high school. I started listening to the Agonist. I remember hearing Thank You Pain and just thinking, holy shit, this chick is insane. Because I had listened to Thank You Pain, and then I listened to And Their Eulogies Sang Me to Sleep. And there is one thing that Elisa Whiteglows does in And Their Eulogies Sang Me to Sleep that still I wish I could do. And it's this high fry scream that just sounds insane. It kind of reminds me of Danny Filth, like the scream that he does. It's like a whistle scream almost. It was insane, and I remember hearing her and being like, holy shit, chicks can do that? Because even though I had heard like Arch Enemy and other women like scream, they had never, it was a type of screaming that I equated to Lamb of God, because I started getting really into Lamb of God at the same time too. In the sense that Elisa was like able to do these different pitches really effortlessly, and it sounded like singing in the sense of like she was able to do lows, mids, highs, and in a polished way able to like transition between everything. That was really impressive to me, and I fell in love. Like I was obsessed, just became like an instant fan. One thing I will touch on is I'm not a huge fan of the classic death metal screams, so that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Angela Gasau's screams. I'm not a huge fan of of the old classics because I don't really enjoy classic death metal false chord screams. But one thing I will touch on, hold on, I'm gonna quickly carve out my eyebrows and then I will explain something. There was like a lot of internalized misogyny. When I first started getting into metal, I would go to shows, and if there was a chick at the show, the way that people view me now is like, basically I get these comments from people who are like, oh, I didn't expect that, or they go into watching my videos or seeing me on stage, and I can just tell that they're seeing if I measure up to my male counterparts. And I was that person. I remember I went to Uproar, which was a festival, and I remember knowing that Halestorm was on there, and I'd never heard them before. I didn't even listen to them before we went, but I knew that there was a chick in the band, and I was
like, oh great, another chick. Let's see how like generic she sounds.
I can't explain to you the amount of internalized misogyny I had towards other women in my scene. But I do remember listening to Lizzie, and when she started singing, I was like, holy fuck. She is an insane vocalist, amazing, so talented. And I had to work through that. Like, it took me years to really work through that. And I will say that I don't do that anymore. If I see a woman at a show, I get so excited. I get excited to see how they perform, what they sound like. It's not in a judgmental way. It's literally out of excitement because I want to know like what you do, what they do, and what sound they have. And I really, really, really love going to shows and seeing other women because there should be more of us. There needs to be more of us. I'm gonna take Change, which is this purple right here, and I'm gonna put it on the first half of my lid. I didn't actually start screaming. I'd been doing it on and off since I was 20, and I would practice to songs like Nemesis because they were in my range, or what I considered to be my range. So I was practicing to them. I don't know if this is gonna do it any sort of justice, but wow, that is gorgeous. So I really started practicing to that song. And actually I remember one time I was practicing and I thought that my dad wasn't home because I was still living at home at the time with my parents, and I thought no one was home, so I was practicing. I remember stopping, and the computer room, like the family computer room, was right below my bedroom, like right below it, like directly below it. And I remember stopping, and through the vent from downstairs I heard,
"You're gonna hurt yourself!"
My dad had been listening the whole time. I was mortified, and I stopped screaming that day. I've been practicing screaming on and off for, God, I don't know how long. Since I was 20. And then I didn't start to get serious about screaming until I was in KOSM, we started KOSM 6 years ago, which is crazy to me. That is a crazy concept. And I really started honing in on it. I started with false chords and they worked great. And then something just like clicked and I shifted to what I guess is now fry, but the whole time I thought that I was doing false chord until recently, and so that's like a whole other explanation, a whole other thing. I learned how to scream, like actually learned how to scream 6 years ago, and I like got really serious about it. So when I was 24 is when I really started to hone in, and it was because I was in a band previously before KOSM called Maya, M-A-Y-A, and we were actually gonna call ourselves Veil of Maya, and we couldn't because obviously. Anyway, so I was in a band called Maya for 5 years, from when I was 18 until I was 22, or was I 17? I can't remember when I joined the band. My old band Maya was like a progressive metal band, really, really heavily influenced by Tool. So I didn't really have the opportunity to like look into anything heavier because no one really liked anything heavier. Also, I was dating someone at the time who was really shitty. And basically when I started listening to the Agonist, they were like, why are you listening to this? This is so stupid. I really, truly, I think it wasn't until, again, I joined KOSM and started dating Eric, who is my husband, that I started really like exploring heavier music. Like I didn't listen to Killswitch Engage until I started dating my husband, which is like, how did I do that? Even then, it's not until recently that I started listening to bands like Shadow of Intent. I think like 4 years ago was when I started listening to like Shadow of Intent, Infinite Annihilator, those like heavy bands. And I'm still discovering bands now. Like Enterprise Earth is new to me. Sharp Tooth is new to me. We're gonna move on to the face next. I use the Charlotte Tilbury Openness. I use the color corrector because I have very dark circles. So I just use my finger and I just tappy tap. I'll also be honest, like I didn't start developing my lows until literally a year ago, a year and a half ago, maybe. The reason why I wanted to start doing more gnarly stuff, I knew that women could scream. I knew that women could do crazy stuff, i.e. Elisa Wegless, Tatiana, Courtney, but it wasn't until I heard the Machinists' No Peace that I was like, what the fuck? Amanda July from the Machinist is the reason I started doing fucking gnarly vocals. She is the reason that I was like, okay, you know what? It is worth looking into this shit and expanding my technique outside of just mids, highs. I did some lows, but nothing like crazy. And then I listened to the Machinist and I was like,
Okay, I see you.
I'm using the KVD. I use a lot of different concealers. I use the KVD, the Anastasia Beverly Hills, and the ColourPop Pretty Fresh, depending on my mood and how I'm feeling on that day. And today I'm feeling the KVD, okay? And I put my concealer here, down the bridge of my nose, top of the lip, chin. And then depending, I'm feeling it today, I'm gonna take a little bit of this is the Anastasia, what is it called? The Magic Touch Concealer in shade 1, just to bring a little bit more light. But that brings us to basically, I'm a core kid at heart, truly. A core kid. I love metalcore, I love deathcore, I love hardcore. Oh, I don't love hardcore, but I love something that has like a little bit of groove to it, a little bit of melody to it, and something that's polished. I am so spoiled. And if you have been on live with me, shameless plug, I also go on Twitch where I listen to people's requests. I really, really love learning about new metal from people, which is why I started doing Metal Mondays on Twitch, which is basically you send in a request and I listen to it. It's not necessarily like a reaction. We kind of chat. I kind of talk through the whole thing unless something like really catches my attention. So if that's not your jam, totally fair. I also play games. I've played Elden Ring on Twitch, and I also am gonna start playing Until Dawn. For Foundation, I'm starting with the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter. This is not affordable. For my skin, a lot of it is not affordable because I like to invest in my skin when it comes to products for the skin. And then I'm using the Stay Naked Hydromaniac Tinted Glow from Urban Decay. Now that I have my base on, it's very glowy. You can't really, I don't know if you can even see properly, but it's very glowy. I then used this Beautiful Skin Sunkissed Glow Bronzer. My actual favorite is the Makeup by Mario stick. They're always sold out of it. It's always sold out. It's almost like people agree with me that it's really good and so they buy it. This is growing on me. It's fine. It's very expensive, so I'm gonna use it. And I just take like a brush and I start all the way up here because I like being lifted. How do people like just talk? I'm already like exhausted. Can you hear me like breathing heavy? Because people ask me all the time what my favorite bands are. I feel like everyone has favorite bands that define their stages in life. If I were to talk about like the bands that basically like shaped who I am as the person and the journey that led me to the metal that I like now, I would say Evanescence, but I really am not a fan of their latest album. I also wasn't a huge fan of Synthesis. I do like the originals that were on that album. One thing I will say is that The Open Door by Evanescence is fucking slept on, okay? That album's so fucking good. And then after that would be Avenged Sevenfold and Nightwish, because I remember Nightwish again brought me into beauty, like the Beauty and the Beast kind of thing, and helped me learn that screaming is actually a talent. And then the Agonist. The first 3 albums will forever hold a special place in my heart. And then I want to say Spiritbox because I'm an OG fan of Spiritbox. Okay, I started listening to them in 2017, 2018. My drummer showed them to me and I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know if I like them or not. I don't know. And then I like became very obsessed. But now I remember in 2020 or in 2019 actually, I started listening to Whitechapel. This is just coming back to me now. It's all coming back to me. On my honeymoon, I listened to nothing but The Valley for the entirety of that fucking vacation. I love that album. That is like 2019. That was my #1 album of the year. I fucking loved The Valley. I don't care what anybody else says. That is also such a pivotal album for me because I just fell in love with it. Like made me love deathcore, fall more into like the deathcore metalcore category than I was before. I remember in 2020 I fell in love with Within Destruction. Yokai was my 2020 album of the year. I wonder if I should do a series of that. Maybe like my albums of the year from what I can recall. Again, another apparently controversial opinion. Thank God I wasn't like immersed in the community yet, really, when that album came out, because I love that album. I think that album is so great. I love what Within Destruction did with that album because it had slam elements, which made me fall in love with like really heavy metal, like really like slam and thal. The reason why I love Yokai so much is because it is heavy and it's brutal and it has great breakdowns, but it also, like, I just love that Within Destruction made this album basically saying like, we don't give a fuck. Like, we're just gonna do whatever the hell we want. You know what I mean? This is my contour. I do it here on my forehead, just on the tip of my nose, and then on my chin because I have a double chin. And then for blush, I kind of just go with what I'm feeling or what goes with the eye look, which I think is like gonna be more of like a cool toned vibe. So what I think I might go for is this. This is the Odin's Eye Alva Flower Blusher. This is what it looks like. I'm a beauty YouTuber. I do the thing where you can see it. This is in the color Sweet Tulip. And I take a ColourPop F21. And this is actually very pigmented. So I just do like a, oh, maybe, hold on. I'm scared. I just dipped in a bunch of times. And then I do it on like the higher points of my face. And then I bring it down onto my cheek. But most of the pigment is up here because it helps like, you know, lift it. Lift it. So after that, I started listening to, again, Shadow of Intent and Infinite Annihilator and like way more like actual deathcore. I was listening to it like periodically before, but then once I started listening to Yokai, and then I'm talking so much. I also fell in love with Black Tongue in 2020 because of Amanda from The Machinist. I do give her full responsibility for it. I fell in love with that fucking band because it was around the time that I fell in love with The Machinist. It was like right before the pandemic. And my husband and I went to go see The Machinist because I just started falling in love with them. And they were coming to Vancouver, which is where I live. And I remember I was at the show and I saw The Machinist and I was so happy. And then Amanda and I started talking because we had been talking before on Instagram. And she was like, you have to stay for Black Tongue. I was like, well, I have work at 5 a.m. so I can't because it's a local show. So shit goes until like 1 a.m. I remember being like, I don't know if I can. And Eric being like, Eric is my husband, being like, well, we should stay. Like, let's stay. And I was like, I can't. I have work at 5 a.m. I have to wake up early. But then I eventually was like, okay, fine, we can stay. Amanda told me that we should stay, so I will stay. It was one of the best shows I had ever seen in my life. After that, I started listening to Black Tongue. They're one of my favorite bands. I could listen to Nadir like forever. I know it's from 2019, but like one of my favorite bands. One of my favorite albums of all time. Fucking love that album. Okay, so it's my highlighting brush. I use a ColourPop F33. I'm gonna take, this is Gifted. Let's see if you can see. This is a duochrome highlighter. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see the shift. It's a duochrome highlighter. It's purple to green. So I'm gonna take some of it. Bitch, look at it. Oh my boy. I need to figure out my lighting situation. Listen,
I'm trying.
I'm gonna powder under my eyes. I use the Juvia's Place White Sands I Am Magic setting powder. I'm gonna put on some liner and some lashes, and then we'll do the lips, and then we'll be done. I'll be right back. Hold please. Okay, and we're back. Hello. This lash is giving me issues, so please ignore. So as you can see, I've done my lower lash line, I've done liner, I've done lashes. I will list out everything that I use now. So I use the Utterly Alone Pigment Paint by Melt Cosmetics. It's very dry. It's old. I think I got it in 2020, so it's like 2 years old, and I think I left it like not fully closed at one point. So it was a little difficult to put on. I don't think it's this thing's fault. It's my own fault for not putting the lid on. So I use that for my liner, so that's why it's purple. And then I used the Essence Lash Princess. I really like this mascara. It's the best. It's like $4. And then for my lower lash line, I just put on a little more of this dark purple, the Snug color, just on my lower lash line. And then on my waterline, I used the ColourPop Creme Gel Liner in Call Me. And then for lashes, what are these called? On Repeat by Boldface. That's what these are. Now, finally, our last thing to do is lips. So for lips, I'm gonna be using the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in Brink. My crusty, musty lips.
So crusty, so musty.
so musty. And I'm gonna take Lovecraft by KVD Cosmetics. I use the all-nighter, tried and true. Never liked Fix Plus. And then I also I alternate between the two. This one is not available anymore. I mean, Cover Effects is not available easily at all anywhere. This is the Cover Effects Illuminating Setting Spray. I don't think that this is available anymore, but I really like it. I remember it being controversial because it does kind of look like glitter particles, and then I'm not gonna overdo it, I promise. But I also really like the dewy finish, but it's the Cover Effects Dewy Finishing Setting Mist. I also really like this one. It's basically done, I think. How much do I have left? I'm gonna look inside. Not much. And then I sometimes, if I'm feeling frisky, I'll use the hyaluronic setting mist, hyaluronic acid setting mist from Pretty Fresh, but not often. It smells too much like coconut. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. To end this off, where I sit now when it comes to my metal journey is I love everything that isn't black metal. I like blackened things, like if there's like aspects of black metal in them, but for example, like Zeal Ardor, like blackened aspects, but just can't do black metal. But I really love everything else. Like I really enjoy symphonic metal. Actually, I'm not a huge fan of melodeath or doom, so I will say that as well. And I mean, I have my limits for a lot of things. Like noisecore also is not my favorite. I love everything that's heavy and chunky. Give me the chunk. I love slam, metalcore, deathcore, thal, gent. I love symphonic metal still. I mean, I don't listen to it as much. I'm a little more particular about what I listen to. There you have it. That's my metal journey. That's to where I am now. I am not looking forward to editing this video because I have this thing where I ramble and then my brain goes from A to Z and then to G and then to B and then to P. I hope that it makes sense. I'm gonna try and edit it to the point where it does make sense. Thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a like and a comment. Comment down below what band really got you into metal, what led you on this beautiful, brutal journey. Ring the bell, subscribe. That's the other thing, right? Subscribe. You can also find me on all of these other platforms. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all at the same thing, Full Metal Jessie. So please come on over and hang out. Really would appreciate it. I am thinking about a Patreon, so maybe if you want to leave a comment down below what you would like to see from me on that Patreon, that would be great. But otherwise, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I know that this is something different and probably something that not a lot of the people who watch me are interested in, but you know what? This is my channel and I'm gonna do what I want, okay? My life.
It's my life. It's no one ever.
I'm gonna live forever. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one. Bye.